Chapter 32. Hello, London calling, Sophia says cheerfully, having grabbed the phone before me as always. I hover next to her. Hi, is Vinny there? I hear a voice that I thought I might never hear again. I snatch the phone from Sophia, ignoring her protest. Abby, I don't believe it. You're back. Oh my God, you're back. I choke back tears of relief and happiness. Yes, Vinny, it's really me. I've missed you so much, Abby says there's too much to tell over the phone, but that she'll come over tomorrow after she's visited her mum at the hospital. Abby's dad has arranged to do extra shifts at the restaurant to make up for all the time he had to take off. So for once, she's free to do as she likes, as long as she can bring the kids with her. The next afternoon, I rush to the door before I even hear the bell ring. I just sense that Abby has arrived. I throw open the door, but I'm shocked by her appearance. She's so thin and her face is sallow and drawn. She looks so tired, but her smile breaks my alarm and I see the familiar twinkle in her eye. I look rubbish, don't I? She laughs. It's been like the worst kind of nightmare, but I'm back. I'm really back. She bustles in. Abby barely breaks to take a breath as she continues chatting all the way through to the living room. And the best thing is, Mum supports me now. She doesn't want me to go away again. She wants me to go to college to train to be a teacher and everything. That's amazing, Abby. Come on, let's go to my room, I suggest. I go to close our bedroom door, but Sophia slips in behind us. Thankfully, before I have time to argue with her, Mum marches in and pulls her out of the room, stopping first to give Abby a massive hug. We're so pleased to have you back, she says. I'll bring back some fish and chips for a meal later. Sophia, I need you to come down to the shops now. It's not fair, she protests, but she knows it's no good. Mum has made up her mind, and anyway, her offer of chip shop chips is too much for Sophia to resist. Abby, don't worry, I won't be long, and don't start gossiping until I get back, Sophia yells as Mum slams the front door behind them. I'm sorry about her, I apologise to Abby. Let's get a drink. We go through to the kitchen. Abby sits down while I make us 2 milky coffees and dig out a packet of chocolate biscuits. We lean forward in our chairs, sipping our drinks, not really sure where to start. So much has happened. So how are you really? I finally venture. It must have been terrifying. Abby is silent for a moment, then her eyes well up, and as the tears trickle down her face, she starts to talk. It's been awful, Vinny, worse than I would ever have imagined. And then when I found out that Mum was so ill, I had no one to talk to. Their lives are so hard out there that they're all so matter-of-fact about things. You just get on with life, whatever it throws at you. So nobody cared that I was sad, lonely and scared about the prospect of getting married, and then really upset about Mum too. When did you first realise you weren't coming back? I knew a lot from what Pinky had said, but I needed to understand the full story. I thought I was coming back home right up until the last day. I'm so stupid to have trusted them. Dad and Uncle Taj had planned everything from the start. He tricked me into going over there because he knew I wouldn't have got on the plane if I'd known. Once Serena's wedding was over, I heard him talking to Uncle Taj about leaving me there because it was cheaper than taking me home and sending me back in a few months when I turned 16. In 2 months' time, Vinny, I would have been getting married if I was still there. Abby shakes her head, still disbelieving how close she came. I know, I say gently. None of us could believe your parents would do that to you. We had no idea. Serena, Anna and I were just pawns for our fathers and their brothers. They truly believe they have the right to control our lives. They think they know what's best. But it's all about paying off old debts and gaining the most advantage in the family. The decisions they make over our lives are just imprisoning us, and it's a cycle that must be stopped. Abby takes a biscuit and seems to savour it more than normal. If Mum hadn't got ill, Dad wouldn't have let me come back at all. I'm only here because he needs me to look after the kids in the flat. Women's work, the men say. You know, I saw Anna at Serena's wedding and she's changed so much. She used to be such fun. She used to have so much life in her, but now she's scared of her own shadow. I didn't get to talk to her much, but she told me that I had to get away, to not let them send me back. Life is very hard for her and she hates Dad for forcing her to stay out there, but now she's pregnant. She found out just before the wedding, and she said it's changed everything for her. She said she wouldn't leave now, even if she could, because a baby changes everything, and it's no longer all about her. Abby holds her face in her hands, and I watch her shoulders heave. Vinny, what could I have done to help her in time? I was only 13, I didn't have a clue what was going on, and Mum never told us anything. Abby is crying so hard it is difficult to understand everything she is saying. I tried to comfort her, but my words feel empty. She knows there's nothing you could have done. She doesn't blame you, and she'll be pleased you've escaped the same fate. It's okay, Abby. It's okay to be upset. You're safe now. But Serena is still stuck out there, and I promised I wouldn't leave without her. Abby looks up, red-eyed and desperate. It's not too late for her to come back. She's so scared, Vinny. She's terrified. She can't take much more. Vinny, we've got to do something. We won't give up on either of them. None of it's your fault. None of it is. And you can do more for them now you're back here. We won't just let them there, though. We won't just leave them there, though. What can we do? Abby stops crying, and a fierceness comes into her expression. We must make a plan. Your dad will help, won't he? Can we trust him not to tell my dad, though? Abby is scared that Serena and Anna could get into worse trouble if we aren't careful. I know we can trust him, and he'll think of something to help us, I say comfortingly, hoping I can make my words come true. We fall silent for a moment, finishing our coffees. Then Abby suddenly says, they kept Serena locked up in her husband's house. She'd already tried to run away several times. She never got very far though, and when they caught her, they beat her black and blue. Oh, I gasped, poor Serena. Where would she have run to? That's the problem. She had nowhere to escape to. She asked the other women in the village to help her, but they just laughed and scolded her, saying she'd get used to it. Every woman did. But Serena will never get used to it. I know I would never have got used to it either. Don't forget that her horrid mother-in-law would have been my mother-in-law too. I shudder at the thought and wonder if Abby was beaten too. I don't ask. She'll tell me in her own time. Come on, eat up. You've become too thin, Abby, I say, passing her the biscuits. Did they not even feed you? I refused to eat while I was out there. They couldn't force me to do that, Abby says. You would have starved yourself, Abby. I'm shocked. You've got to remember they took everything away from me, Vinny. It was the only control I had left, and possibly my only escape, she stammers quietly. I can't bear to look in her eyes. They're so anguished. But she seems to want to talk about everything. Stories keep tumbling out of her experiences there, and eventually we get onto the moment Addie betrayed her. Pinky and I were crouching behind a tree. Stupid place to hide, really. And then Addie shouted out that he'd found us. To him, it was like we were just playing hide and seek. He can be annoying, but he doesn't understand. He just wants to please and be like Abu. The next thing I knew, everyone was shouting and we were screaming, and I could feel hands hitting and pulling at me. Then it's like a bad dream now. Mum came over. It was as if time stood still, and it was just me and Mum. She held my chin up to look directly into her eyes, and she said, Abby paused again. The horror of recalling the moment seemed to be too much for her. I held her hand, and she carried on. I'll never forget a word of it, she said. You know you have to stay. You know you have to do this for me, for your love of me. I nodded. Of course I loved her. You know our honour is all we have, and if I don't have that, I have nothing. I won't be able to bear the shame. I will kill myself, Abby. I will hang myself right here on this mango tree if you don't agree to do this. Think of your brothers and sister. You don't want to leave them without a mother. Stay quiet and be strong and do as we ask you. I couldn't speak, Vinny. I looked at her in disbelief. The family honour was that important to her. She had betrayed me too. I didn't care anymore. I just let go of Pinky and sank to the floor. It's a blur after that. I remember Pinky calling to me, and then the sounds of the car pulling away, and then silence. I stayed in the garden. It was dark, but still I lay there, and no one came. I couldn't move. I didn't cry. I felt dead inside. I know my mum well enough to have known she wasn't just making idle threats. I couldn't do that to the little ones. What would happen to them? I was trapped. It was my happiness or theirs. Your mum was blackmailing you, Abby. You know that, don't you? How could she do that to her own daughter? I say in horror. She wasn't blackmailing me, really. She was just telling me the truth. Vinny, her truth, life as she knows it, Abby says, and I can't believe she's defending her. You don't hate her? I ask wide-eyed. No, I don't hate her. In a strange way, I understand why she did what she did. It's hard to explain how families like ours work. It goes very deep. And of course, now I know that when she was lying in hospital, faced with the thought of death and of leaving her children behind, something happened inside her. She's changing, Vinny. I don't expect her to suddenly be all modern, but she knows how she feels about us girls now, and she will help us, I'm sure. I'm still getting used to the change. I'll tell you one thing, my life will not go the way they had planned. I will not marry until I choose to. Abby finishes with conviction, and I believe every word.